All right, welcome once again to Jay's Retro Toys and Games. I'm Jason DeCanio, your host for this episode number 55 on this Friday night, March 24th, 2023. Continuing our look at games. Well, you loved that game we featured a couple days ago. You know which one I'm talking about, right? Maybe you do and maybe you don't. Because I don't remember it. No. It was Hungry Hungry Hippos. Hope you enjoyed that one. So tonight we're going to be looking at a game that goes back all the way to 1969. And it's been around for almost 54 years. That's right. 54 years. It was first introduced in 69 by the now defunct Ideal Toy Company. The game was designed by Marvin Glass and Associates and created by Hank Kramer, Larry Reiner, and Walter Moe, and is now distributed by Mattel. It's a game in which participants play tic-tac-toe by lobbing small beanbags at targets in an attempt to change the target to the desired letter. Know which one I'm talking about, right? It's Toss Across. Yeah, Toss Across. Coming up next on this edition of Jay's Retro Toys and Games. Right into the game here. Hope you're having a great Friday night. As we delve into the weekend, we've got this 55th episode here we're going to tackle. Toss Across is looking at it right now. And it was a game, like I said, that goes all the way back to 1969. So I tell you, you're talking almost 54 years. And like they say, as in traditional tic-tac-toe, the first player to get 3 of their letters in a row wins the game. There are other similar games to Toss Across known under different names such as tic-tac-throw. The targets are 3-sided blocks situated on a frame such that the impact of the beanbags can turn the block, changing the letter. Each block has a blank side, an X and an O. Now, modern boards are entirely plastic, less than a meter square. 6 beanbags are included with the game. Now, the official rules, as included with the game, call for the X player to go first. Each player starts with 3 beanbags. Players stand approximately 6 feet from the board to toss their beanbags, alternating turns. The beanbags are only retrieved after all 6 are thrown. Whenever 3 matching symbols in a row are turned over by either player, the game ends immediately. So multiple players may participate by dividing into 2 teams. Turn order. 1, player 1 from Team A. 2, player 1 from Team B. 3, player 2 from Team A. And 4, player 2 from Team B. More skilled players can stand farther back to make aiming their tosses more challenging. Rather than arbitrarily assigning the first player X, letters can be assigned as soon as a letter is turned on the board to the player that turned the letter. For example, if the first player misses his first shot, but the second player turns over an X, the second player is assigned the X, and by extension, the first player subsequently plays O for the remainder of the game. The strength of Toss Across is its balance between luck and skill, and while the game generally rewards accurate tossing and effective strategy, there are elements of luck to gameplay, and even if a player succeeds in hitting the square they wish to change, it is often impossible to control the effect one's beanbag impact will have. Blocks may turn quickly, spinning a few times before coming to rest, at which point any side may be facing up. Players can be frustrated by hitting the square they want, only to change it to their opponent's letter. Further, the low quality of the plastic board can punish players. Blocks do not always turn, even when impacted. And occasionally, a beanbag toss can affect 2 or, in rare cases, more squares simultaneously. Skillful players can attempt to do this on purpose, but more often it happens without intent. With practice, players can become increasingly adept at hitting the precise location on the board that they wish, enabling them a better chance of affecting the square they wish to change. In the original 1969 edition of the game, the pieces in the squares did not turn freely, but could instead only turn one face either direction from neutral. This is why the neutral squares had small X and O decals on them. If you hit the small X, the square would turn to X and stop. To turn it off of X, a bag had to strike the other half of the square. It might then turn back to neutral or to O. So the original game had a much stronger emphasis on skill than the current version. And unlike traditional tic-tac-toe, a letter placed in a given square may not stay there the rest of the game. A square may change letters multiple times before the game is resolved. And this highlights the major game strategy, that it is often more effective to attempt removing opponents' letters than to block them from getting 3 in a row. In traditional tic-tac-toe, preventing a player from getting 3 letters in a row is accomplished by placing your symbol in the way such that they cannot get 3 in a row in a given direction. And while this is entirely possible in toss-across, the somewhat arbitrary effect of hitting a square can work against players. For example, here's Joe. He's playing the O. He observes that Jane, playing X, has changed both bottom corner squares to X. In traditional tic-tac-toe, Joe would place an O in the bottom center square to block her. However, in toss-across, unless Joe is confident that he can control his throw to the degree that hitting the bottom center of the block will definitely change it to an O, this is not the best move. There's a 1 in 3 chance that hitting the block will change it to X, giving Jane the victory. Moreover, if Joe achieves his best possible outcome and changes the block to O, Jane will still aim for this block to change it to X. Joe's move is essentially wasted, and instead Joe aims for one of Jane's established corners. If he hits it, there's a 2 in 3 chance that he will remove the X from the board, and he even has a 1 in 3 chance to flip the square to O, radically altering Jane's strategy. While no method of tossing the beanbag is guaranteed to have the desired effect, tossing the bag vertically such that it rotates corner over corner rather than horizontally, such that it stays mostly flat, tends to create more significant impacts and more often turns the blocks. And although no official rules prevent overhand tossing, some players ban this practice merely to prevent higher power throws at the board, which is not particularly sturdy. And there you have it, friends. A short but detailed look at a game that's been around for over 54 years. Toss-across. And we're proud of it. And it's still out there in stores for you to play. And if you have an old toss-across, you have a piece of history that is still to this day in good working condition. And by the way, for all those people out there that had toss-across in some way, shape, or form, you know you could still play a pretty good game show of tic-tac-toe if you really did try to use that board. It really actually works out pretty well. I used it a lot, and I even came up with a game called Super Tic-Tac-Toe, where you answered a question and got control of the beanbag, and every time you revealed your X or your O, you put money in the pot. Get 3 in a row and you won the game. And then you had in the bonus game, you had 6 beanbags, and you had to make tic-tac-toe of either X's or O's of your choice. Get it all, and you got the big jackpot. If not, you got $100 for each letter you did get correct. After the 6, you basically pretty much, if you didn't get tic-tac-toe, like I said, mounting jackpot. But it was a good game while it lasted. There are variations you can do with this toss across board, and I think there's more rules that need to be officiated when you're using a game like this to do something else with it. But it's fun, and there are, of course, variations to it. Nicely done. Thank you, Ideal Toy Company, Marvin Glass and Associates, and, of course, to Hank Kramer, Larry Reiner, Walter Moe, and now Mattel. We have a vintage game that will continue to be around for the next century and into the future. Well, coming up next week, we'll be back to toys. And, well, as they say, we have to look at some of the things. We have to go into our archives and see what we're going to be looking at. We really haven't had much of a chance to see what we were going to be coming up with next. Although our games, when we get to that point, will be Rummikub. That's going to be one of the games. And I think Mr. Mouth, because since we did Hungry Hungry Hippos, Mr. Mouth should have hopefully a bigger following on it. So I'm going to go into the archives of toys and games. Let's look at the list of toys and see which one. We've done Army Men. We've done G.I. Joe. We've done He-Man. We've got to go back into and do He-Man later on. I think we'll do, let's see, the Smurfs also had a pretty big following, didn't they? Yes. Not much, but you might say. We could check them out later. Let's see. Power Rangers. Now, the Power Rangers go back as far as 1993, so they've already been 20 years in the making, and that is, I think we'll be looking at the Power Rangers, folks. That's going to be a big one. So next Wednesday, we might separate that up into two parts. Power Rangers, next week on episode 56 of Jay's Retro Toys and Games. I'm Jason DeCanio, thanking you for this edition, episode 55. Remember, if you have not been a subscriber yet to the channel, please do hit the subscribe button, hit the like, and of course, if you can, and if you're nice enough, leave a comment too. Not about me, but about what we're talking about here on the program. From all of us here at Jay's Retro Toys and Games, I'm Jason DeCanio, thanking you again. And remember, be honest, be real, and keep it simple, stupid. Kiss. We'll see you next time. Bye for now.
Don't forget to subscribe to the David3000 Network for great more content like this one.